there's a couple of ways that this belief can pan out. It can either mean that you're working all the time, and actually that doesn't improve your performance or your productivity, isn't great for your nervous system, all of these things.
It was only once I started self-reflecting and understanding why am I doing this? Hang on, I need to put me into this equation a little bit. And that was really hard for me to do. It might sound really simple, but when you're in it, you just don't see it.
I'm at this level, but actually what do I really want? What are the things that make me feel happy, engaged, motivated, that give me purpose, that give me meaning?
Hi, and welcome to Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I'm an independent financial advisor and wealth coach. I'm the director of Evolution Financial Planning, who is also our sponsor for today's show. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just got to let you know, are you enjoying the shows? If you are and there's more you want to listen to, then check out our quiz. You'll find the link below. You can fill out these questions and it will basically tell you what area of your finances you should focus on. So it might be business, it might be you're getting divorced, it might be investing. There's about 9 categories. And what it will give you is a playlist to the relevant categories of all the shows we've done that apply to that area and that subject. So what it allows you to do is super fast learn about the subject that you need to know super quick without having to scroll through about over 130 episodes currently. So I hope you find that helpful, and do let us know your feedback leave us a review via your preferred platform. Thanks. Hi, I'm your host Rebecca Robertson, and today we're joined with an amazing guest on Accelerating Your Wealth, and we're going to be talking about how to improve your self-image around money with the amazing Ruth Kudzi. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you so much.
Ruth is a psychologist, and she is a director, CEO of a coaching company called Optimus Coaching Academy, best-selling author, How to Feel Better, and Is This It? I love that. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, more than welcome, more than welcome. Now, I'd like to start about how did you actually do what you do? Where did it start? Because you were a deputy head teacher.
Yeah, I was. So I was a deputy head teacher and assistant head teacher, I think for about 6 or 7 years. And that basically this was, you know, when, is it Steve Jobs? Is it when you look back, everything makes sense?
Yeah.
So I studied psychology. I started studying psychology when I was 16. So quite a lot of years ago. And then I did it at University of Management. Then I did a master's in psychology and education. And so I always had this kind of idea around coaching, using psychology. My first kind of proper job was in recruitment. So I was kind of quite into, you know, coaching people, supporting people, lots of interview prep and that kind of thing. And then I went into education, and I knew that I wanted to be a coach, but I didn't see anyone who was doing it. And I think I was about 28. I was at a music festival. We met these guys, and they had just launched their own coaching business, and they got their first client when we were at the festival, and we had champagne with them. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You can do this stuff. And then I think it took about 7 or 8 years to launch my business after that. So it was something that I knew about. And then when I was a deputy head, assistant head, it was something that I was doing in my role. So we were coaching every day. I had a coach. I actually did a leadership development program, and that was all around coaching. So then we were using it in the school. I was using it with my team. And so I knew as soon as I was on that leadership development program, which is about 17 years ago now, I knew that I wanted to be a coach. But at that point, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to become a head teacher first and then do it. And luckily, I realised I didn't have to do that, because I'm not sure if I would have wanted to be a head teacher.
No, especially now. I think it's lots of hard work.
Oh, it's really hard.
Yeah. So being that you're somebody that's reflective and looking back, how would you say that those decisions that you've made and the things that you've experienced have affected your story with money?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think even leaving, so education, yes, we know that you're not paid loads, but you're paid a decent amount. It's a great career. It's a stable career. We're always going to need teachers, so leaving that to start my own business, that brought up a lot of things around, having a salary, because we think that, I have a salary now. I pay myself a salary, but this idea that somebody else was responsible in a way was different. So there was definitely a lot around my identity, how I had to change, how I had to learn things. I had a narrative which I think I brought from childhood around you're no good with money. So I think that was a really interesting thing to see play out in my business and start to realize that I could change that narrative, because you can't really run a business for a decade, which I have, be no good with money. Like, you need to change that. Otherwise, you're not going to be sustainable.
No, I completely agree. And I found that I've been 16 years in business now, and I'd probably say the first 6 or 7 years I made so many mistakes, and it wasn't, my money story played a big part in that, but it was all around people pleasing. And so therefore the business that I built was around my team being happy. It wasn't around if I was doing it the right way for me, how I wanted to pay myself, the type of clients I wanted to work with, the kind of advisors I wanted to take on. The whole principle of all of it was around growing the company with other advisors, but really basing my decisions around what was best for them. And so that led a lot of bad decisions that were for me. And it was only once I started self-reflecting and understanding why am I doing this? Hang on, I need to put me into this equation a little bit. And that was really hard for me to do. It might sound really simple, but when you're in it, you just don't see it. And then when I started to shift those perspectives, I was able to then start thinking about what I wanted and what kind of business. And then I was more aligned. And when you're more aligned, things just happen so much easier. Whereas before, I felt like I was constantly fighting up a river, so to speak. So I can totally agree with you. It's not always, but that affected my money because it meant I wasn't as profitable, because everything was harder work and nothing seemed to fit or work quite so well. When I started to focus on the things that I like doing, then it was money just flowed because I was enjoying it more. I was putting more energy into it. So I think that like alignment and understanding who you are plays a big piece. But when you first start, it's a bit like as a business owner, you're thrown in the deep end, aren't you? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know that's coming.
Oh yeah, you really don't.
No.
And that, like, the identity, that kind of people pleasing, I really resonate with. But also, like, when you say you don't know what you don't know, it's other people's voices. You start to make other people's voices and the shoulds stronger. So even when you're saying like what you love doing, I have had so many people say to me in the business, you should do this. Even recently, someone was like, you shouldn't be training. Like, other people should be training in the business. Like, you should just be the CEO and do this. And I'm like, but I've already been there and I was really unhappy. And actually, I love the training. We get great feedback. And like, my vision for my business is different from your vision. So rather than like, but it's really, if you don't have the confidence to say that, you start building a business that is based on someone else. You start thinking, oh, this is the blueprint for success that we see all over social media. And if you don't have that confidence, if you're used to people pleasing, then you just start following a different path, and it's never going to be one that works well.
No, and I think when you add the lens of business to all of this sort of money self-image, it just puts a microscope on everything almost every day, especially when you're coming across others and you're going networking and you're getting so many should do this. It has a big impact on and it can distract you for years. A completely the wrong path. What unconscious belief might be limiting someone's financial growth?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. So one of them is, I need to just work harder. Okay. So many people and the thing is that there's a couple of ways that this belief can pan out. It can either mean that you're working all the time, and actually that doesn't improve your performance or your productivity, isn't great for your nervous system, all of these things, especially for women, because we are built differently biologically. I know that a lot of the people that are held up in the industry as doing loads of things, they're usually single men. Yeah. So there's a real difference that we've got here. Single men, usually white single men. So systemically, they don't have as many barriers. So it's easier for them. But for most people, that work hard narrative, either it means that you're going to work really, really long hours, and that's not sustainable. Or it means that you are going to be stuck in a kind of guilt trap because you can't work that hard, because maybe you've got caring responsibilities, maybe you're building this alongside other things. And so then you're going to be spending a lot of energy and time and emotion on the guilt that you're not doing so much. So somewhere along the way, we all thought that the harder we worked, the more successful we would be. Probably from school, when I was a deputy head, I remember we used to give students, if they weren't up to standard on their GCSEs, we'd give them more of that lesson. So like you weren't getting a D, you weren't getting a C in maths, so you do more maths. And then the students didn't come in on those days because they're like, I've got a whole day of maths, miss, and I hate maths, so I'm not coming in. And you're like, okay, I can completely see that. But it probably comes from there. The more I do, the more successful I'll be. And what we need to recognize is that it's not just doing more, it's doing the right things. It's understanding our strengths. It's understanding what is profitable. So that one, I'm no good with numbers.
Yeah.
I'm no good with numbers.
That's a big one for women, massive,
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, I talk openly about the fact that I got an F in maths at school. I said it on my TEDx talk. I said it on a talk yesterday I did, and everybody, I said I might manage millions of pounds of money, but I got an F in maths, and everybody laughed. And it is funny, but the perception is that, well, I should be then terrible. It's almost like a society standard that, well, if you're eating an ice cream, your mouth is going to be cold. It's like the two and two go together. If you got bad at maths at school, you'll be no good with numbers. And for a lot of women that weren't good at maths at school, then they put that correlation together. And actually, for me, they don't work. Working out some sort of algebra or the mass of the room, that's got nothing to do with, even if you can't work out, well, I've got £5 and Jimmy went to the shop and bought so many apples which cost X. Like, even financial planning is not around that. It's that they are completely, they're not tied. Yes, there's an element of physical numbers involved, but maths is such a wide subject. So I completely agree, and I hear that all the time from women.
Yeah, and it stops them even looking. So I'm no good at maths, or I'm no good with data. And so what they don't do, I always say to people, like, everything is data. Look at everything, but look at your numbers, because things like most people that I meet, they don't know they don't know what a break-even point is. They don't know anything like that because they've never learned. And so it's not about, it's about actually going, how can I be better with numbers that will support me to make the best decisions in my business? Because otherwise, things like profit. I saw my accountant put something about profit on Facebook or LinkedIn in the last couple of days. And he was saying that lots of business owners look at profit at the end of every year. And I was like, wow. I mean, that's massive. Like, really understanding your profitability, understanding, well, what are the things that I can pull? What is going on here? Okay, right. That month wasn't very profitable, but I made all these big expenses. That's okay. I was investing for the long term. But I need to not do that for a couple of months because I need to have more cash. It's just understanding. And I think if we're saying to ourselves, I'm no good with numbers, so I need to work harder, I'm no good with numbers. What money means as well. Like, I've definitely had guilt about making money, guilt about, being different to my peers and my friends. Like, I don't want to be someone, and I think especially when I first came into the online space, everyone was talking about 10K months, 100K years.
Yeah, what's that about?
But like, everyone's talking about that, right? Everyone is like, and then you think, especially at the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, it sounded amazing, right? I've just been a assistant head, deputy head teacher.
And in a 10K month, it's like, wow.
Oh my gosh, you would like eat. Okay, now, which is, 10 years on from when I left, if you were a head teacher of a secondary school in London, you'd probably be making 100K plus in terms of your salary, but you wouldn't be getting 10K in your bank account.
No.
Far from it. So this sounded to me, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. Like, I've never I had heard of that money because when I worked in recruitment, sometimes you'd have massive pay packets. You'd place lots of people. You get like 15K, but you're like 22. So you'd spend that in a month.
Yeah.
On God knows what. You go, you'd be like, oh, great, let's go to New York or something ridiculous. Nothing to show from that. But it was very alien. And I think that sucked me in a little bit at the beginning. And I think it probably does most people because it's so different to their reality. Even if they're, and we were sold all of this, work for 4 hours a week, get 100K. Everyone's like, this sounds great because I've been, working in education. I've been an accountant. I've never earned that much. And actually, I think that messaging not only got people to believe that it was possible and we'd have that in our pockets. Brilliant. But also it then created guilt if we didn't get there.
Yeah, a lot of shame as well.
A lot of shame. Oh my gosh, but it's so easy. She only works 4 hours a week.
How is she doing that?
How has she got millions and this flash
The funniest one for me was when people say, "Oh, I've made £1 million," and then my business has made £1 million, and they've like been doing their business for say like 10 years, and they've just added up all their profit over the last 10 years. And yes, it's made £1 million, but that doesn't mean that's like the 10 grand in your bank, and you didn't get that as a deputy head because you've been taxed and pension contributions and everything else. So it nets back down. And similar to obviously the business, they've got all the expenses. You actually haven't earned 10K, and that's the understanding the numbers. Actually, when I see posts like that, I just see people that don't understand their numbers, not that they are necessarily being any more successful than somebody else, because that comparison, that comparatonitis where you're saying, oh, she's made 10K. Well, actually, because of all the Facebook ads and all the PA help that she's had and the tech help that she's had, actually, she's actually only made £3,000. Yeah. But you done only, I don't know, part-time work whilst you're doing something else, and you made 2.5. Who's more profitable? Who's more successful?
And this is the thing. I think as well that we have so much tied up in our identity around money. Okay, so I was talking about shame at making more than my peers. I've got some very successful friends who make a lot more than me, right? Who work in corporate, who have a job. But yeah, this idea that money means that we're different. Okay, so that was a big one. So again, when I came into the online space, people were saying things like, you'll lose all your friends, you'll up-level your identity. And I remember, I think that I probably stopped myself because I was thinking, why do I want to lose my friends? Like, I've had the same friends for 20, 30 years. Why would I want to ditch them? Like, I'm happy with them. And I found that really interesting. And people are always talking, well, you're as successful as the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I'm thinking, do cats count? Like, like, if so, I'm a little bit dodgy on that. But it was, like my cats, my children, my husband. Okay. But it was like, again, I think that actually puts barriers for lots of people, because most women that I speak to actually, and men, who come into the entrepreneurial space, they want to build something for the long term. Yes, of course, they want to make money, but they also want time and freedom and all of those things. But they don't want to lose their friends, lose their own life, not feel connected. Like, that isn't what they want. They don't want this whole kind of up level. They don't need, they don't need people to know how much they earn. They didn't really share that when they were in corporate. They don't want to be saying to people, oh, I earn this much, or I drive this car. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think the image online, it was like I remember this particular person. I don't think he's still around, but he'd always be like with Lamborghinis, and it was a bit like when you go on holiday to Monaco, you get his picture taken, don't you, of all the sports cars outside the casino. But that was like the reality, and then that plays into money is success, money is always striving for, like. And I think what happens then is people's identity, they start to think, okay, I need to be different, or that's so far from me, maybe money isn't for me, or maybe success isn't for me, because it's just like this disconnect with what they actually want.
If you're somebody that is not sure what to do with their finances, maybe you're working and you're not sure what to do with the bonuses you've got at work, Or maybe you started a business and you've got profits and you're not sure what you should be doing to enable you to A, pay yourself more, or B, potentially retire earlier. Maybe you're somebody that's thinking about, do I overpay on the mortgage? You've received some inheritance. You've got lots of questions around your finances and what to do next. Then check out Evolution Financial Planning, who are regulated independent financial advisors and financial planners that can help you make some of those big decisions in life. Yeah, is that more about knowing yourself, do you think? I mean, because I think for me, my identity was that I can't have money because of my background. So I was brought up in a very nice council house on a very nice road. It was actually like a semi-detached house that was sold for a lot of money. It was built a very long time ago. But when my grandparents first moved in, they didn't have, it was many years ago, they didn't have a toilet inside. They still had the toilet in the garden. And when my dad moved in with us, because he was a single parent, they still had a slot TV, like coins. You were talking like early 1980s.
Yeah.
And they still, so that was the kind of like my initial upbringing. And my dad really, from my grandparents' side, they didn't come for a lot of money. They didn't have Christmas presents or birthday presents. They couldn't afford it. My granddad worked in a coal mine. My nan worked as a seamstress in a factory. So I don't come from money. So for me to transition where I am now, doing the job that I do, that whole internal messaging, I've had to sort of recode it, if you like, as sort of, I used to think that women who were wearing certain kinds of shoes and have a certain demeanour about them, and they were ruling the room and, earning a certain amount of money, or I used to think that they were pretentious. I used to think that they were just so arrogant. Yeah. And it was, and you can have somebody sitting there in loafers and saying nothing, and they still could be very, pretentious because they drive out and drive a Lamborghini or whatever. No judgment if you got a Lamborghini, but it was interesting. I had to really work on that internal image, that not only of myself, but how I reflected that on other people.
Yeah, because it sounds like people like me don't make money. Yeah. Like my family, again, my grandparents were very working class. My granddad was a butcher. And, so we had a bit of money, but it was like, we always had to be careful, right? That was always, you have to be careful around money. You shouldn't spend it on frivolous things. You need to save, you need to be this, you need to be that. And it was, 100%. I can see exactly where my parents were coming from. I can understand. But there was also, there's something kind of arrogant or vulgar or whatever to have money. Yeah, like we shouldn't aspire. We're okay where we are. It's kind of, and so then again, you're projecting, you're saying, oh, well, that person must be like that. This person must be like this. And it's all because of what you believe. Like when we project things onto others, when we're like, oh, that person is X or this person is Y, it's not about that person. It's about what they represent to us. So maybe they're challenging a belief system that we've got. Maybe or maybe they are challenging something because maybe it is something that we desire, but we're not saying that. Because of course, even when I'm saying work 4 days a week, make 10K, that would be great. If I could do that, I would be happy, But actually in that, there's part of that work hard that's been challenged. There's part of that idea that money comes easily. I mean, that's one. It needs to be hard. It's like the hard work. Money needs to be hard. We need to have put in a good day's work to get paid.
Yeah, and my husband would say something like if I wasn't doing very much one day, he'd be like, oh, so you haven't done very much today? And I'm like, no, it's a benefit of being self-employed. You get a day's holiday whenever you like and you'll be paid for doing it. Whereas I don't. If I don't work, I don't get paid. But actually, if I want to take a day's holiday and not do anything, I'm not going to feel guilty about that. Yeah. And it took me a long time to get out of that habit, because for many, many years, I just throwed more and more time at it, more and more hours at it. And of course, there were times where, for example, I was studying for exams and doing sort of certain projects that did mean that I was having to put in extra time. But actually, I think it depends on your growth cycle and how many things you're juggling. I do feel like, for me, I don't want to say lucky, but I feel like I've really had to work through a lot of elements to now be at a point where if I haven't got projects going on, I could work 2 or 3 days a week. I earn much more than the national average wage, and I pick my now one kid, 'cause I now got a nearly 18-year-old, I pick him up from school and I drop him off from school every day, and I could go horse riding and I could go to the gym and I could do those things, but it wasn't always like that, and I think I then start to find myself going, oh, I'm in this privileged position, which I've worked for. Like, I've had to navigate a lot of things to get there. It's been 16 years of running my business. But then I find myself sort of almost making excuses to other people that I see struggling, going, oh, I've been there, got the T-shirt, I know what it's like. And I was like this, and I did this, and have you tried that? And I almost found myself feeling guilty about the fact that I've got through the other side, and it exists. What's that about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's about identity as well. It's about comparison. It's probably that you are unconsciously. So there's a model called the SCARF model, which is by David Rock from the Neuro Leadership Institute. And it just makes me think of that, right? So we're always comparing ourselves in terms of our status to others.
Right.
Okay. And if we perceive that, and it's like who should pay attention to us, but who we should pay attention to. And so we always want to be seen as valuable, but we also want to build relationships and relatedness. So if we perceive that maybe we are, like, okay, yeah, it's like when people say to me, oh, about my business, like I don't really talk to my school friends. They'll say things like, oh, no, what's your business? Like, oh, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Like, I don't say to them, oh, yeah, one of them says, how many people do you employ? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, we've got a team of about 11. And then we've got contractors, so it's about 20. And it's like I talk it down.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that. It's like, I don't want them to think that I think that I am better than them. Honestly, I don't think any of them do. I don't think any of them care. But it's like this really weird psychological thing where we play things down.
Yeah, I do that the same.
We don't want to be a show off. Because it's really bad to show off. So rather than own it, we start going, yeah, but I've got that many people, but I work really hard. I have to get up earlier. Like, I have to work evenings. And they're probably just thinking, why is she telling me this? Like, I don't even care. But it is. It's like unconsciously still, it's probably with both of us, part of our identity that's like, we shouldn't show off. We shouldn't do this. We should be the same as other people. Like, people from our background, they wouldn't have been doing this.
But that has got something to do with the fact of like women's identity, that we're told not to speak up.
Yeah.
We're told to not be brash, not be loud, not to be that kind of woman or that kind of female. And I see so many women sort of playing down their skills, and they're consciously doing it because they feel that maybe they can't do any more. They've got the confidence to do more. And I wonder what the difference is for people maybe more like ourselves that have had to work through those things and have had to build a lot of resilience in that process, and what drives us to really feel I don't want that for myself.
I think, one of the things that I think for me that made a difference was, when you were saying about you built a business for other people and you made sure, like I was always like, I need to pay them fairly. I need them to play to their strengths. And I still believe that. But I mean, there were times when I was paying them and not me. I mean, ridiculous. And I remember once paying a contractor 3 times as much as me in a month. And I was like, that's not the contractor's fault. I mean, the contractor was loving it. That's my fault. So there was definitely that people pleasing. And in a way, like, I feel like now I've created a business where people do rely on me. I'm like, well, I have to show up for them. Someone said to me, well, how do you always show up? And I was like, because I've got people that rely on me. And in a way, I've created that psychological system where people rely on me and I'm not going to let other people down. So it's like I've created a system that needs me to show up. And I think that really drives me. I also think having daughters. So I've got 2 daughters, and I think I want them to believe that they can do whatever they want to do. I don't want them to grow up thinking there are limitations. I studied management and psychology at university, and of my group who did management, so it was like half and half, the only people that became entrepreneurs were men. And I really had that template. You have to be a man And the people that became entrepreneurs, I mean, they had names like, it wasn't this, but like whatever Mars, like like you knew who they were because of their surname.
Yeah.
A bit like, the people from Made in Chelsea or something, but obviously way before that time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, you need to be from a certain background and you need to be a man to be an entrepreneur. And that was my belief. And actually, if I hadn't believed that, would my life have been different? Yeah. I probably would have started businesses in my 20s. I would have had, which I did on a small scale, but I would have taken more risk. I would have recognized that I could do things. And so I think for me, having those little girls, I don't want them to think, oh, just because I'm a girl, I can't do it. Or just because I look different to other people, I can't do it. I want them to think, I can do whatever I want. Doesn't mean I'm going to be successful at whatever I do, but I can have a go at everything.
So is that about being happy to fail?
Being okay to fail. Like still, part of running a business, we don't know, I was laughing the other day in a kind of ironic way because I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's like everything. Like I said yesterday to my husband, I could not believe it. Our mortgage is due for renewal. And you had to phone them to renew, right? And so I was like, I'll just leave it for a couple of weeks. 300 quid. That's what it cost me, 300 quid a month, because I left it for a couple of weeks and then the mortgage rates have changed, even though the interest rates haven't. And I'm like, I might just leave it for a bit longer and see. But I was like, there's always something that's going to impact your business. Like now we've got another energy crisis. We've had wars, we've had COVID, we've had always. And so even if you're doing everything right, even if you know your numbers and everything, sometimes it's not going to work. And I think there is part of you that has to be okay with it not working to actually keep going. But yeah, I was laughing. So I was like, there's always something. Like, can't we just have a couple of months where it's just chill? There's nothing. Everyone's happy. But there's always something.
Always something, definitely. So why do we start repeating some of these behaviours? Why do we not know better?
We don't know better because our beliefs are formed in our brain, they're nearly there from the age of 8. So that might be observation of the people around us and the context we were in, like we need to work really hard for money. Money doesn't grow on trees. How many times have we heard that? People like us don't have money. Those people are showy because they have that kind of car. Like all of those things we will have learnt either from our home environment or we might have heard it in other contexts. Like I grew up in the 80s and I remember people having like really nice cars, ensuite bathrooms, all of this. And I saw people literally lose everything. So again, if you've got money, it might not stay. Or like these beliefs could be throwaway comments. A teacher might say something, someone might say something, but it's the way that we personalize it. It's the way that we make things mean in our brains. And everyone's brain is different. And then the beliefs are like a mental filter. So our beliefs support our behaviors. Okay. So if we believe that to be successful, you have to make money and you have to work hard, we want to make money, we're going to start working hard. Very much one of mine. I used to work 2 jobs. That I worked, I went traveling and stuff, but I worked 2 jobs. Even traveling, I worked 2 jobs. I worked in an office and a bar. All my way through uni, I had jobs. I'd always be doing stuff. I'd always be like, because I was like, well, I have to keep doing stuff. I have to have a bit of a hustle to make money. And again, that was different because my mum worked part-time. So I was like, well, how can I be different to what I saw growing up? Oh, the hustle. So we have those beliefs that then build our behaviors. So we have these kind of rules and these filters in our brain. Like if X happens, Y happens. This is what I'll do. But that's our neural pathway. So that's built into our brain. So the more that we repeat a behavior, the stronger the belief becomes. And unless we know what that belief is, it's going to stay. So what we need to do is bring awareness to that belief, start to think about a more helpful belief and start to behave in a way that is congruent with that. And that's going to take time. Like rewiring your neural pathways takes, some people say 21 days. UCL study said 66. James Clear says a lifetime. It takes time, practice, motivation, focus, dedication. So this isn't about a once and done. This is about an awareness for behavioural change and then a repetition to embed.
Can you change any of those belief systems at any point if you put that reflection in place and you start to you can?
Yeah.
So anyone could sort of be from like the poorest background, the worst upbringing, told all the wrong things about money and mindset, and believe that they might work. I mean, I like how wheelie bin men, they come round and they're really funny and they're a great laugh, but being a wheelie bin man, my bin smells really badly. I don't imagine wanting to do that job. Let's just say you're a wheelie bin person and you are, this is your lot. Like, and you don't think you're ever going to, my dad or my parents were this and I'm never going to achieve that. And you've got all those makeups internally of like, like my dad, when I got my first horse, he just thought that was the most bizarre thing ever because horses were for rich people. Yeah. And that whole perception of horses, I wanted to ride when I was younger and he wouldn't let me because that was for stuck up people. And my dad's a very much, working class, union, left wing kind of guy, Scotsman, tight as hell. So that's ingrained in you, part of almost like it feels like your DNA. But you're saying that can change.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting you said DNA because epigenetics suggests that we inherit some of our beliefs. And I was smiling about the horses because I used to have horses growing up, but I don't like to share that. So because then again, I think people are going to think that I'm stuck up. So when people say, "Oh, what sports do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I actually did horse riding. I used to compete every weekend." I feel again that identity, but I was different. We didn't have I have to say something else, and it's ridiculous.
Like to counteract it.
Yeah. Because otherwise, people might be judging me.
So why do you care about all the self-relief and all the tools? You've got like the most tools to be able to reflect and change this. What stops you from changing it if you already know it? I think it's
that wanting to be liked, not wanting to be different, wanting to fit in. I think that's it. And I catch myself and I'm like, no, I can say this. I can, I can't control what you think about me. But going back to, can we all change our beliefs? Yes.
DNA.
Is it easier for some people than others? Yes, because there's a few things that impact. So our context, okay? So the environment that we're in makes a big difference. If we're with people who have different beliefs to us, if we are in environments where people are striving and changing and committed to it, then that's going to be easier. It's about changing our identity. So it's about really starting to go, who do we want to become? And that, again, isn't easy.
No.
And then it's about, actually doing that work and celebrating it and building and building and building. So I think we can all do it, but it would be wrong to say that, for some people it's not harder than for others. Because again, systemically, there'll be barriers to some people for making changes as well. So it's again recognizing always like the systems, the context that people are in. But we can all change it.
Well, that has been part 1. And if you want to subscribe to whatever channel you want to be you're on, then you'll get part 2 coming out in just a couple of days on Monday. If you're listening after the initial release, then you can just carry on watching and flick on to the next show. But please do always click subscribe and you'll get notifications of our future shows. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining us today at Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I hope you enjoyed the show. Do subscribe and let us know in the comments any of your thoughts.